Thank you for tuning in to the first episode of the Play-by-Play Sports Podcast. I am your host, Sean Maldonado, and today's topic will be how David Carr was set up to fail as the expansion number one overall pick of the Houston Texans. David Carr really didn't do a whole lot in his first 3 years as a quarterback at Fresno State University, but what he did in his senior year made up for it. He threw for 4,839 yards, 46 touchdowns, and just 9 interceptions, completing 64.5% of his passes, and leading a non-BCS automatic qualifying team in the Fresno State Bulldogs to finish as high as 8th in the polls. And Carr finished 5th in Heisman voting that season behind the winner Eric Crouch, Rex Grossman, Ken Dorsey, and Joey Harrington, who all would later become NFL quarterbacks as well. But Carr didn't go empty-handed at the College Football Award ceremony that year. He took home the Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award. Strong performance at the college level caught the attention of an NFL GM named Charlie Casserly. Casserly was the newly appointed GM of the expansion Houston Texans, being granted a new team 6 years after the Houston Oilers moved to Tennessee. Carr was ranked by many as the consensus number one overall pick, and due to a new team needing a quarterback, that's where the Texans went. In 2002, it was a tough year for Carr and the Texans. Despite winning their inaugural contest against in-state rival the Dallas Cowboys by a score of 19-10, the season really didn't get much better from that point. Carr was sacked a total of 76 times, which stands as the most times a quarterback has been sacked in a season, and that record still stands as of this recording. He finished with 9 touchdowns and 15 interceptions, completing 52.5% of his passes for 2,424 yards, and he also ran the ball for 282 yards on 59 attempts, scoring 3 touchdowns on the ground. He did have a problem with fumbles, and he coughed it up 21 times, losing 7 of them. So what do these numbers tell you about David Carr's performance? Was it all his fault? No, I don't think so if you look at some of the players he had on the roster around him in his first season. So by that number I mentioned, 76 sacks, that means the guy had no protection around him. And if you look at the offensive line, only 2 players started all 16 games. One of them being a rookie in Chester Pitts, and the other being his center, Steve McKinney. Houston did try to fortify the offensive line by using their number one overall pick in the expansion draft on former All-Pro Tony Baselli. Baselli was coming off 7 years in Jacksonville and developed recurring shoulder injuries in his time there. He was unable to suit up at all in the 2002 NFL season and retired due to complications from the injuries. Another veteran offensive tackle, Ryan Young, who spent the prior 2 seasons as a full-time starter for the New York Jets, was brought in to be the right tackle. Young experienced some injuries of his own and was only able to suit up for 9 games, forcing 2 rookies into positions they didn't expect to be in. Left tackle Chester Pitts and right guard Fred Weary put in some time against high-level NFL talent on the defensive end and struggled early on in their careers. The skill positions around Carr weren't much to talk about either, other than Jabbar Gaffney, who was also a rookie in the same class Carr was drafted in as his go-to receiver. The Texans lineup was filled in with depth pieces and inexperienced players who were left exposed by other franchises during the expansion draft. This, as well as Casserly's ideal to load up the defense for head coach Dom Capers with veterans such as Aaron Glenn, Gary Walker, Marcus Coleman, and Seth Payne, meant there wasn't much around him and try and make plays on his own. This led to Houston finishing the season with a 4-12 record and begin the search to find Carr a weapon he could really rely on. Fortunately for both Carr and the franchise, they did just that. With the 3rd overall pick in the 2003 NFL Draft, the Houston Texans took former University of Miami product Andre Johnson. This gave Carr a weapon on the outside and allowed the Texans to move Jabbar Gaffney to the slot. They also drafted Seth Wand, an offensive tackle, and signed Zach Weigert to play right guard. Dominic Davis was added to the backfield to compete with Jonathan Wells, and a semblance of an offense was around Carr heading into the 2003 campaign. Unfortunately for Carr, injuries limited him to 11 games in 2003, and he threw for 2,103 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. He missed time with an ankle sprain and a sprain in his throwing shoulder. His sack numbers were down, but that could be due to less games played as well. The Texans would finish 5-11 and on to 2004. And in 2004, it was a bounce-back year for Carr and the Texans as well. They finished with a record of 7-9, and Carr was able to start all 16 games, amassing 3,531 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. Carr was sacked 49 times and was often seen running for his life, making ill-fated passes or trying to extend plays with his feet. 2005 was a disaster for Carr and the Texans, as they started 1-9 in their first 10 games and finished a disappointing 2-14. The Texans would draft running back Vernon Morency and wide receiver Jerome Mathis to help round out the offense, but the team was still heavily constructed on defense due to head coach Tom Capers' expertise in the area and many of the free agent signings coming on that side of the ball. Carr played through injuries in part caused by poor offensive line play that saw him sacked 68 times, again leading the league in that category. He threw for 2,488 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions. Andre Johnson would have a down year, playing in only 13 games due to a nagging calf injury, and would haul in 63 catches for 688 yards and 2 touchdowns. Carr went into 2006 with his last chance to prove the Texans right, selecting him number 1 overall back in 2002. It would end up being his last season as a full-time starter, and he played in all 16 games, tossing 11 touchdowns and 12 picks, threw for 2,767 yards, and was sacked another 41 times. After the season, Houston acquired Atlanta Falcons quarterback Matt Schaub and released Carr. After 5 seasons, Carr would never have a full-time starting gig again in the NFL, bouncing around as a backup for the Carolina Panthers, New York Giants, and San Francisco 49ers. So let's take a look back at the 5 seasons he spent in Houston. He completed 59.5% of his passes, threw for 13,223 yards, 59 touchdowns, 65 interceptions. He was sacked 249 times, which led the league 3 times, with 76 coming in 2002, 49 in 2004, and 68 in 2005. He fumbled the ball 69 times and lost 22 of them. Carr would win Super Bowl 46 as part of the New York Giants as a backup to Eli Manning, and would end his career in 2013. So that's my opinion on David Carr. Tell me what you guys think in the comments. And in closing, I'd like to say Carr was put in a bad situation, much like that of Tim Couch when he was selected with the number 1 overall pick of the returning Cleveland Browns back in 1999. I could draw a lot of similarities between the two, with both teams really not giving either quarterback much to work with. With Houston deciding to go defense with the majority of their expansion draft picks as well as their regular draft picks, it really handicapped Carr in the beginning of his career, and with the exception of Andre Johnson, he really had no weapons on the offensive side of the ball that can make him look like a better quarterback as he learned the nuances of the league. I don't think he was a bust, but I don't think he was put in a good situation either. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode of the Play-by-Play Sports Podcast. I'm Sean Maldonado, and we'll see you next time.